about your college experience, do you remember that one professor who always seemed approachable, who, if you stopped by their office, they would drop whatever they were doing just to listen to your questions and concerns? Well, I know she can remember that professor. See, some people can overlook the importance of interpersonal student-professor interaction. However, I sought to address the question, to what extent do the student-faculty out-of-class interactions at small liberal arts universities, specifically OBU, affect students' overall college experience? Chickering and Gamson were a highlight of the literature. They assessed or developed 7 principles of undergrad education that would improve the college experience, specifically academically. As you can see, those principles are encouraging contact between students and faculty, developing synergy and cooperation among students, using active learning techniques, giving prompt feedback, emphasizing students' time on task, communicating high expectations for students, and respecting diverse talents and ways of learning. And like I said, all of these are geared toward academic growth. Pasquarella studied how students grew in different interpersonal climates and environments. And he found that there's a positive correlation between student-faculty interaction and college persistence, and also overall satisfaction with the university that they're attending. George Cuh, assessed more effective growth of students. He wanted to see the change from students from their freshman year to their senior year. And in the 150 interviews he assessed, he found that traits like self-awareness, autonomy, and responsibility were the most significantly changed traits. He even suggested that the boundaries between learning in and out of the classroom were blurred so as to be indistinguishable. I interviewed an OBU alumni, assessed a focus group discussion of 6 OBU students, and also sent out a student survey to the population of OBU students. My interviewee actually worked at OBU after he got his degree from here, and then went on to pursue higher education in higher education, a degree in higher education. He said he was a typical at-risk student who dropped out after a year and a half at OBU. But when he came back 3 years later, he said that the professors were the make or break to his success in college. He also said that he received validation from his professors, who were in a place of power and authority. And he said that validation couldn't really come from his peer relationships. Now, both the interviewee and the focus group members mentioned that the more in-class interactions students and professors had, the easier and more comfortable out-of-class interaction would be. My focus group was comprised of 6 individuals, each from the 6 different colleges at OBU. They had really great stories, and they were really good to listen to, but not all of the stories were, oh, my professor came to my rescue type stories. In fact, one science student even said that she cried in her professor's office for an hour, and the professor tried to be funny and make a pun out of her experience, and she just did not enjoy that very much. But no matter what the experience, no matter what the story, the 7 principles that of Chickering and Gamson that's on your handout, those seem to be evident in the professor-student interaction. 2 things that I found in my focus group were, first, the professors allowed students to come and discuss personal issues, whether it be just struggles that they're currently dealing with or future, maybe graduate experiences. Second, I found that professors were willing to share in the struggle and help find answers in whatever situation the student was dealing with. My survey had some very significant findings. 3 of them are up here, and they can be applied to the OBU student body with 95% confidence statistically. The first is that more than 80% of students at OBU are comfortable or very comfortable interacting with their professor out of class. Second, more than 87% of students either somewhat agree, or totally agree that their professors have been influential in their college experience. And lastly, almost all students discuss academic topics with their professors out of class when there is interaction. And that seems kind of obvious, but more than 60% of students also discuss non-academic topics, and 2 of those tables are on the back of your handout. You see, both academic and non-academic learning are heavily influenced by student-professor interaction. The literature that I discovered did a pretty good job of making this argument, but I think it's more important than even any of the literature has emphasized. Academically, focus group members said that when you have a relationship with your professor, you want to do well and understand the material because you want to impress your professor that you enjoy so much. They also said that once a standard has been set, that you want to achieve that standard of excellence so that you don't disappoint your professor. Or maybe your professor pushes you to that standard because they know what you're capable of. And like the literature said, students and professors, they get more comfortable with each other the more interaction there is. So asking academic questions is not a problem. I've defined effective benefits as social, personal, and professional. Those are the type of growth that come as well as academic growth. See, as the literature and focus group mentioned, the line between learning in and out of class is indistinguishable. While students are thinking through their academic topics, they're also developing effectively. As the interviewee and focus group stated, they receive feedback and validation and even confidence when they get to sit and talk to their professors. One of my focus group members, I think, nailed this idea down, is the idea of community, especially that we have here at OBU, that there's not a hierarchy of faculty and staff and then students, but we're all people here learning together from one another. You see, the learning environment extends outside of the classroom, as we know, and both professors and students need to realize the benefits because there's much to gain from this type of out-of-class interaction. See, in my mind, the importance of student-professor out-of-class interaction hasn't been stressed to the extent to which it should, and the gains for students haven't been publicized nearly enough, either to current freshmen who are getting acclimatized to the university experience, or even faculty members. See, when I see these graduates, I don't know the level of their understanding. I don't know what their GPA was or if they pursued graduate work. But I know who they learn the most from. And I know whose advice they listen to when thinking about their future. Effective learning is just as important to the student experience as academic learning. And all parties involved, including the administrative level, need to realize the potential benefits of this interaction. And as McKinney and his researchers argue, we should assist in the provision of cooperation between academic and effective learning. As I look to further research, I would ask if the relationship that some students and professors share create an evaluation bias. Maybe a professor grades more difficultly, or maybe it's less stringent if there's a relationship. But ultimately, because there is a value in this relationship, this out-of-class relationship that's proven to be significant, I would ask if this level of out-of-class student-professor interaction can be applied at larger universities. Thank you. Questions?
In regard to your further research, can you speculate for me what you think you would find if you applied this information to the student-faculty relationships at larger universities?
I think there's definitely, it's beneficial to students to have professor interaction. The level to which it would work at a larger university, I can't really say because the student-professor ratio is so high. So I don't know if it's applicable. I'm not totally sure. But I would say because of that ratio, it would make it much more difficult, I think.
I know you indicated that you sent out your survey to the student body. What kind of percentage of response did you get?
I had 150 respondents. Actually, I think more than about 170 actually, and not all of them filled out the entire survey. There was an open-ended section, but.
Thank you.
First of all, congratulations, you've almost written your entire capstone paper. So, congratulations. Second of all, I have another question about your survey. Did you take into account non-traditional students, commuter students, things like that, or was it mostly, was it a homogeneous group, or was it?
I asked, my first two questions were if, which college the student was in and what their classification was. So that doesn't provide any kind of age range or commuter, non-commuter. It's just, yeah, freshman to senior, and then which college they're in. So.
Do you think that might change if you were able to gather results and data based on that kind of thing, or do you think at least at OBU?
At OBU, I mean, I think it would be more difficult for commuter students to interact just out of class, just because of maybe a time constraint, especially with non-traditional students. But the lifelong learners that I have in some of my classes seem to be more engaging. They want to understand probably more than the traditional students. So that actually might create a desire to go and discuss with their professor out of class to gain more understanding. These guys?
I think I answered it when I read this.
Okay.
You talked about just within your major, so your upper level professors versus all professors.
Some of my focus group participants actually talked about this. One of the students had a freshman English teacher that she had for the first semester of her college year, first semester of her college experience. Well, she never had that professor again, and in her sophomore year, she saw this English professor, and the English professor said, you know, we should go get coffee, catch up, and just see how you're doing. And the student just kind of wrote it off like, okay, yeah, we're going to go get coffee. But the English professor actually came, and they went out, and they got to talk about life, and she said it was a great experience. So, you know, there is, even in my personal experience, professors that aren't necessarily in my degree plan that I can go and talk to, and I feel very comfortable discussing anything with.
One last question for Neal. Yeah, go ahead.
Not a question, Neal, but a couple of comments. One, it would be interesting a topic for further study to see if the major professor that the student focused his responses upon was their academic advisor as well. So there was a distinction there. And then just a comment, there is national research that indicates that the out-of-classroom experience and interaction with professors is more substantially influential in private universities versus public.
So it's, yeah.
Which you're probably not surprised about.
No, but I mean, that's good that it's been addressed, so.
Do you think in your research indicate whether Dr. Ellis or I love you more?
My focus group
He knows
participants
the answer.
kind of,
That's me.
That's me.
That's
they can beat around the bush on that issue.
Give him a hand. Thank you, Neal.